Hello, and this is Iran for Terrible Terrible Damage, bringing you a TVP on Cloud Kingdom. So here in the upper right, we have the blue Protoss, Lee, and he's saying good luck, have fun, is the red Terran in the bottom left, Weiman. So this will be on Cloud Kingdom, as I said, TVP, pretty large map, usually going to go for a, longer macro game here. Kind of can be difficult sometimes to hold this third, take and hold it, but not too bad. We'll see what comes out of it. We have the initial pylon right here beside the Nexus, and beginning a wall off is Weiman. So we'll have to see what each of them go in for. Too early to tell, though we do have a 9 scout from Lee. Quite early, but definitely make sure that he'll get inside any wall that goes down, even if he uses the barracks as part of that wall. Often you'll see Terrans wall off no matter what. Even if they don't put the barracks here, they'll usually wall off with a supply depot wall. Typically a good idea, but he will use the barracks here, but not going to actually help him much, as the probe, again on 9, will get out there, begins to harass. On the Protoss side, just chrono boosting out probes, got his gateway down. Not a whole lot interesting you can do at this point, as long as everything's being built within your base. But we do see gas coming up from Weiman, so he's not going straight into that. The most common build you'll see in TVP, which is that 1 racks fast expand, going to go for the gas instead. Now, this will allow him to get earlier tech. And here we see a manor pylon in the mineral line. Quite annoying. I don't know the math on whether or not that's worth it, but either way it's definitely annoying, and perhaps you can get an overreaction out of your opponent. In the meantime, we do have the Cyber Core going up, single gas, chrono boost, nothing too unusual. No expansions going down from either of them yet. This is a matchup probably the most prone to early expansions, aside from, of course, Zertatch firsting against Terran. Now, this pylon will be taken out, so that cost him 100 minerals, but hard to say how much mining time the Terran has lost. He'll be losing more if he has these idle SCVs here. There we go. That's better. Now if we move up, he is putting down a factory. Not too gas, so we're not likely looking at cloaked Banshee, but we could see tanks, an early tank push. We could see him go into uncloaked Banshees. That's an option with 1 gas. Now spending a chrono boost on warp gate research without an expansion as of yet, and still just on 1 gas. So we'll see what he goes in for. The probe moving down into position to put down an expansion, though, and there it is. So nothing too unusual here from the Protoss, but definitely have to keep an eye on what will come up next. Will it be a starport here, a bunker by accident, and then a starport? Okay, we are going to see what looks like Banshees. We got the tech lab on the barracks, so it looks like you'll be going straight into Banshee. So we'll have to see if we get a robo out of our Protoss player Lee. In the event that he does end up going in for cloak, it's unlikely. He does have the 2 gas now, but usually you get that earlier if you're going in for cloak. Now he is saturating both of them with 3 SCVs, but we'll have to see what he does. Now, also getting a tech lab on the factory itself. A little slow swapping that out. That's unfortunate, because that's the entire benefit of having that factory builded at first. Now the probe does move in and try and scout. He sees that the expansion is not on the low ground. He doesn't know if there is one on the high ground, though. He did scout the gas, but he doesn't know, but the Protoss player Lee does not know what's being used for as of yet. Another gateway and a robo. So the robotics facility will be done before the first Banshee is out. Oh, and he is supply blocked, but actually going for a Raven immediately. That's interesting. So this looks like it will be a 1-1-1. This is an unusual map for it, though it's doable. It's one of the longer maps. We've got 2 ramps. The choke can definitely help with the tanks. so we'll see how well this works. The supply block kind of hurt there on Terran. He has the bunker on the low ground, which could suggest that he has moved in with that expansion, though the probe did get in ahead of time to see that at least at that point there wasn't one. With that, the vision wouldn't have been far enough in to tell. However, he would have seen that there's no gas. That's about all he could determine there. However, there is an observer on the way. This will tell him exactly what's going on. However, with the Raven there, if he's not careful with this observer, if it just runs straight in, it could be picked off by the Marines in the bunker with the Raven sitting right there. So we'll have to see what Lee decides to do in response to this once he finds out what's going on. Still just on 3 gates and a robo, putting down a 4th gate at this point. Has 4 gas across the 2 bases, so going to be teching up off of 2 base, which will be a good decision. The observer does see that there's no expansion taken, as well as seeing a tank. However, he doesn't necessarily know exactly in terms of what kind of push may be coming out, because he has not seen the actual tech. Only the units there on the field right now, and I don't believe he saw the Banshee. Now the Banshee will be swinging around, so he'll know it soon enough. It looks like he's going to go to harass the natural. Right now there is only 2 stalkers on the field. Not sure where the other one is, patrolling up in the main. But this Banshee could do some good damage here, even without cloak. And there's 2 probes picked off, but he's not paying attention. Loses a lot of health on that Banshee, but does get out of there. So building up, just 1 Hellion, 3 tanks so far, a bunch of Marines, and a Banshee. In terms of production, just building up Banshees, Marines, tanks. This is going to look rather similar to a push that MVP did against Parting. That was on Ohana, but this is actually much later moving out. So Lee has been adding in Immortals, which will do very well against these tanks. But as always in this kind of push, you have to be careful. He's getting quite a lot of sentries. I'm not sure about this. With the tanks there, they can destroy these sentries rather quickly. Could definitely use more stalkers because of the Banshees, though the point defense drone will help against those. And Zealots to try and tank some damage, both from the incoming volleys from the siege tanks and against the Marines. But here comes the move out. This is really weird. Moving down to the low ground, I guess trying to attack in more open ground and catch him on siege. Some good force fields there, cutting off a lot of units. Not sure this is being handled the best on the Terran side, but it's working out anyway, as these Banshees are doing a ton of damage. It looks like Weiman is going to plow right through the units here with quite a lot left over. Has the supply lead, but lost a lot of his SCVs there in terms of repair and for buffer. The longer the Protoss is able to hold off, the better it will be for him. The Banshees pick off the sentry. 4 Banshees on the field right now, a 5th being built. The tank's on the low ground, but they're actually blocking off this other siege tank and Marines, which are running around the side. More Immortals in production, but there's so much here, it's going to be really tough to hold off. But he moves in a little far, and this allows the Zealots to close the distance before they siege up. And now the probes move in. And a lot of probes going down. 2 Banshees left over. 2 tanks go down. 1 tank remaining, and it stays alive. So 1 Banshee, 1 tank, 1 Hellion, 2 Marines left over. If we look at the state of the game, though, 27 probes to 13 SCVs now. So this does not look like it's going to be enough to kill Lee. So we'll have to see how this game transitions out of this. And if Lee actually tries to hold his natural, it looks like he's going to move out down the ramp. We'll have to see if he has enough. The Banshee's targeting down. Nope, they were focusing on the Immortal and then onto the Stalkers. Pulls back the weakened Banshee. And now goes back to work on that Nexus. Not a lot out here, but not a lot left for defense from Lee either. Weiman looks like he's going to take out this Nexus. He's gotten through the shields. Will we see a last second push here from Lee? It doesn't look like it, and the natural will go down. But again, this is not the end of the game. 27 probes to 16 SCVs. There is not an expansion here for Weiman. And here comes the engagement on the low ground. Takes out one Banshee, two Banshees, and looks like he'll just be able to clean this up. The Banshee needs to get out of there, and it just barely escapes. Some Marines rallied up. Are they going to engage here? The Stalkers turn around, and that should be the end of the push. Lee immediately putting up that Nexus again. That's a bit bold. We'll have to see if Weiman decides to go ahead and push in again. He does have the Observer in position to see what kind of army he's up against, and that does not look like he would be able to push in, especially up this ramp with the units on the high ground and the sentries. The Banshee moving up towards the main, but looks like he's going to be cut off by the Stalkers, and a nice move there to preemptively block the ramp in case of a run-in. However, the Observer is not in position. The Banshee's going to be able to get a couple probe kills, but he's going to have to get out of there. Looks like he's going to actually lose the Banshee here, and it goes down. Now, during all of this, Lee has gotten that robotics bay up. So he has the tech for Colossi, but not really the resources at this point in time. Now, with the number of SCVs pulled on that first attempt, it's going to be tough to try and pull that again off of one base, so it looks like Weiman is going ahead and expanding himself. He's not all that far behind. With the Mule, he's close to even. He's got a decent amount of tech, but the difficulty is this 1-1-1 unit composition loses power over time. That's why you often see like the Marine Medevac Marauder adding in Vikings and Ghosts as necessary against the tech of Protoss. So with this Marine tank Banshee play, it typically doesn't hold up once the Protoss has Colossi on the field. Tanks also tend to suffer once you get a lot of charge lots, which is very popular with Protoss players these days, getting a lot of Zealots out there on the field to charge. So, good position for Lee. He lost his natural, but he kept a lot of probes alive, but Weiman in no ways is completely out of this. Looks like he's going to go try and harass with these Banshees again, but the Observer catches it. It looks like that is the only Observer on the field, building another one, but moving this Observer back preemptively in response to seeing these Banshees move out. We do have a proxy pylon down here that has not been used. Now, knowing those Banshees are coming, Lee preemptively poised with 4 Stalkers in the main, so Weiman has to make sure to pay attention to those Banshees lest he wants to lose them right away. So he's going to want to pull back very quickly as soon as he sees these Stalkers with the Observer in place, but not paying attention. He almost loses one Banshee, but the Observer not quite in position at first, but now is, and that Banshee will go down. So that was not worth it at all. And Lee is starting to take more and more an advantage in this game. Now, I'm not sure about this move out. Time will have to see what he can do. It's a weird composition. A lot of sentries, some Zealots mixed in there, and a few Immortals. The warp in down here, so it's going to be very much a heavy Zealot Immortal push. This will be difficult to hold off, but pretty risky on Lee's part. We'll have to see how successful he is. And here comes the Colossus, so that is the timing. He is going to wait for the Colossus before he tries to push in. A third command center going down here. So if Weiman does hold this push, he is going to look in a very good position, getting that third out faster than his opponent. 0-0 upgrades on both sides. Uh-oh, but a double medevac pickup right before the move out. So, and this medevac is actually moving right over these units. And he's not paying attention, loses an entire medevac full of units. He's going to be in a lot of trouble here with this other medevac out on the field. But he's actually turning around, deciding not to push in. That's interesting, getting ready for that big push and not deciding to go in, especially after picking off that full medevac. But going to play the safer move and go back, just take a third and defend against this drop. Surprised there hasn't been any warp-in of stalkers here to try and pick off that medevac, and that drop isn't going to do anything. And with what looked like would be a dangerous push that could decide the game in one way or another, turns into just both sides taking a third. So a very nice composition coming out of Lee now. Got Immortals, Colossi, Stalker, Zealot, Sentry, kind of all the things you want aside from Templar tech. He does have the Twilight Council out, just has not researched Charge or Blinked as of yet, but is getting that Templar Archives. Weiman getting in position with those tanks left over from the earlier production to help secure that third base. We look at the workers though. Weiman has stayed on top of his worker production much better than we've seen from Lee, who is straggling quite far behind now. Despite having that third base up, Weiman is in much better economic position. So as this so while the supply is even, as this game goes on, it could start to tilt in the favor much more so for Weiman, who does now have +1 as well, while we do not see any upgrades so far from Lee or in production. So far we do have 5 Vikings on the field ready for this move out, but a very scary army moving across the map for Lee. In terms of production here, we do just have these single starports so far, a couple more barracks being built. This is going to be a very difficult place to fight for Weiman with these narrow chokes and all of this area of effect damage and the sentries. It could be difficult. He does have these tanks going for him, so that is one side in terms of the choke that favors him. The Immortal's going to move in first, interestingly. I don't think he got as much out of that as he wants, but clumping up here, no spread, not much of an arc, but the Colossus are being taken down by the Vikings. A very close battle coming right down to the wire. Looks like Weiman may just have enough to hold on there, and he does. And Lee straight up leaves the game right there as his army gets taken out, and Weiman takes it after transitioning out of that 1-1-1.